Excellent.
So imagine this. You just poured your heart and your soul into something. Maybe it was a speech, a performance, a project. You've spent weeks, maybe even months, perfecting every tiny detail. And then you finally take the chance and you put it out into the world. You're feeling proud and probably even relieved. And then it happens. Someone walks up, they take a deep breath, and they ask that question, "Can I give you some feedback?" And immediately you just feel it. Your chest begins to tighten, your face gets a little red, your mind starts to race, and then you just brace yourself for whatever is about to come next. And we all know that word, it's criticism. It's something we all experience, yet most of us, we resist it or we reject it or outright refuse it. But what if I told you today that some of the greatest success stories in all of history were built on a foundation of harsh criticism? Take Walt Disney, for example. He was fired from his first newspaper job for lacking, get this, imagination. Steve Jobs, he was ousted from Apple, the very company that he himself built, because he was said just to be too difficult to work with. Even J.K. Rowling was rejected by dozens of publishers before someone finally took a chance on Harry Potter. See, each of these people faced criticism that could have crushed them, the type of criticism that makes most of us give up. But instead, they used it to grow, to adapt, to get better, and to come back even stronger than before. So what if I told you that learning to love criticism could unlock so much potential in your life? So today, we're talking about how to love criticism. So welcome to the Mind Your Business podcast, the podcast for whatever business is on your mind. Let's get started.
Well, that's excellent.
Well, thanks so much for joining me for another episode of the Mind Your Business podcast. As always, if this brings value to your life, do me a quick favor. Please like, subscribe, share this with others. It would be amazing if you would leave a review wherever you listen to your favorite podcast. This just helps me to add value to as many people as possible. So let me ask you a question. Let's dive in. How do you feel when someone criticizes you? Do you feel embarrassed, hurt, a little defensive? We've all been there, don't worry. You're not alone. Research shows that there are some just universal reasons that we all feel why most of us would struggle with criticism. And I want to give you just three reasons that you may be, the reasons that you may not be responding to criticism very well, because we all experience it. First, we just get embarrassed. When someone points out a flaw or a mistake that we have made, it just makes us feel like there's a spotlight shining on our imperfections. We feel like there's something maybe wrong with us. Naturally, no one wants to highlight their shortcomings. No one wants to highlight their failures in front of the entire world. Now, I speak for a living, and I recently had someone critique a presentation that I've made recently. And I'd spoken to several hundred people, and somewhere in my presentation, I had mixed up some very important facts. Now, the principle and the point still applied, but it was just delivered incorrectly. I just missed it. In the midst of all the communication, I just got part of the details crossed. Now, when this person told me that I had gotten it wrong, it was so embarrassing. I thought, how in the world could I have mixed that up? I knew, but I just got it mixed up. But I'm glad I was critiqued. I'm glad I was critiqued because it will continue to help me grow. It'll continue to help me get better. And the next time, I will certainly be cautious and a lot more intentional so that the details don't get lost, even in the big picture. And isn't that all of our desire, is just to grow? I hope that's all of our goal, is to grow and to get better, to continue growing, to continue getting better. And even though it was embarrassing, it was beneficial. So we just get embarrassed and we try to resist the critique. And then we have an emotional side. Our feelings get hurt. Even the most well-intended constructive criticism can still sting if it's not delivered well. Now, many people would say that they don't care what others think, but I believe that is a myth to a degree, even in healthy ways. We are all aware and we're concerned about what other people think about us. I talk a little bit about that in season 2, episode 2, in our discussion about comparison. So if you missed it, I think you ought to go back and it'll help you with that as well. So our feelings can often get hurt just because we don't always understand the motivation or the heart behind the criticism. We don't know why they're trying to offer their input into what we've done. See, we don't know if the person is delivering it trying to be helpful or if they're trying to be hurtful. Usually there's a lack of relationship, and when there's a lack of relationship, there's a lack of trust. And this is certainly common, I think, in the workplace. We can't receive criticism from those who are above us because more than not, come on, they usually just treat us like we're hired hands instead of a valuable member of a team. And then let's not forget the third thing I would mention here. I think the reason we resist criticism is because of intimidation. We're just intimidated, especially if the person giving the feedback is your superior, or if they're more experienced in something or gifted at something that you're doing. One of the greatest things that you can do to develop professionally and even personally is surround yourself with great people. If you want to be great, you have to be surrounded by great people, because I believe this is how you learn and you grow the most, by watching those who are ahead of you. However, this can be intimidating. You put yourself in a very vulnerable place. When you surround yourself with people who are more skilled or maybe they're more advanced, you just have to humble yourself in order to grow. So naturally, when you open yourself up that way, when you open yourself up for criticism, it can be intimidating. But what's really interesting about criticism is what happens in our bodies and in our minds. Physically, things begin to take place. As soon as someone brings that criticism, when they say, can I just offer you some advice, or can I just mention something that you did? Our shoulders begin to tighten a little bit. Our breathing gets shallow. And then in our brain, there's the alarm bells that just start to go off. See, criticism triggers that fight or flight response. Psychologically, our minds begin to race. It just begins trying to defend itself. You put up this mental shield, you start mounting these counterattacks, or worse, you just begin to shut down. In fact, our ego becomes so defensive that it filters even what we hear. That means we're not even receiving the full feedback that's been offered to us. So think about that for just a second. How often do you stop listening when someone critiques you? Because you're in the defensive mode, because you're starting to shut down, or you're already thinking of all the reasons that that person is wrong about their critique. Now, I know what you're thinking. Criticism is uncomfortable and it's painful. So how in the world could I love it? How am I supposed to be desiring it? And the answer is that because if you don't have it, without it, we will never grow. Let me repeat that. Without criticism, we will never grow. I feel like for most of us, that statement feels like a punch in the gut. It's not what we want to hear. What we want is an easier path to growth. But we all recognize growth isn't easy. Now, I do want to acknowledge the difference in positive and negative criticism. Before we get any deeper, I do want to acknowledge, because we've all experienced it, there is a difference in positive and negative criticism. Some people are just trying to be critical without being constructive. I actually think you can still learn from those negative experiences as well. But today, I want to be leaning into the constructive form. The question is, how do you find it? Well, there's a term and a concept that I want to introduce you to. And it's going to be the complete opposite of what you probably think I'm going to say, but I call it a challenge crew. So let me ask you this. How many of you have a support network? That's the kind of network that most of us, we like to keep around us. It's a support network of people who they cheer us, they encourage us, they reassure us. You can do it, you're great, you're going to make it. Ultimately, they make us feel good. And hey, that's important. We all need cheerleaders. But if you really want to grow, that's going to come from what I call a challenge network or a challenge crew. These are people who not only cheer you, but they also challenge you. They don't just tell you what you want to hear, but they tell you what you need to hear. Let me give you an example. Let's take a professional high diver. He's in a competition. He climbs high to the ladder. He's been practicing. He's put in the work, and this is his moment. And he steps out to the end of the board and he jumps high in the air and he is twisting and he is turning all the way until he enters the water. And he swims back to the top and he is confident. He just knows he has just killed that dive. He did it with absolute perfection. And then begins to turn his body. He looks over toward the judges and what he sees are imperfect scores. He expected all tens, and he got sevens, eights, and nines. And he climbs out of the water, and he says, I don't know what dive they were looking at, but they're all wrong. And then he says, I demand to see a replay. So this diver, he gets the replay, he watches it, and when he sees himself from a different angle, from another perspective, twisting and turning in the air, entering the water, he notices that his dive wasn't tight. His form wasn't just right. He entered the water, there was more of a splash than he thought he had created. And what he found from a different perspective, from seeing it in a different angle, was that the judges were right. See, someone who helps us with criticism, who looks into our life, can see it from a different perspective. When we're twisting and we're turning in air and we're in the middle of everything that we're doing and we've got pride built up in it, we're proud of ourselves, we've put in the hard work and we think we nailed it. We need people with a different perspective to help us out. Now, I know this is uncomfortable. Truthfully, if you're still listening or you're watching this, you're ahead of the game because I know some people, they've already abandoned us because they don't want to step out of their comfort zone in order to grow. So good for you for sticking around, for listening and watching. And I promise you, this type of growth and opening ourselves up, it will pay off. So the question is, how do we shift from dreading criticism to embracing it? Well, not only is it a challenge crew that's important, but ultimately, I want to help you create what I call a challenge culture. A challenge culture is a complete environment. It's an environment where criticism is a guest and not a visitor. Think about it. A visitor, when they show up to your house, they didn't tell you they were coming. They didn't give you time to prepare, to get things ready, to get the house cleaned up. They just showed up. You went to the door and you either didn't let them in or you were so upset that they just showed up unannounced. But a guest is someone who's been prepared for. You invited them over. You asked them into your home. You cleaned ahead of time. You prepared a nice meal. You did everything to welcome them in to your environment. See, criticism, if you're going to grow, has to be treated like a guest. You have to invite it in. You have to be prepared for it. And you have to know the benefits of that relationship. See, results matter more than your image. And in a challenge culture, we're more concerned with being better than we are being better looking. In a challenge culture, you're more concerned with being better than just looking better. Most of us just settle to look the part, that fake it till you make it. But rather than fake it, we genuinely desire to be better. So we welcome criticism and we welcome this culture. See, when you crave improvement, when you desire it, once you experience the benefit of constructive criticism, you'll actually start to look for it. When you experience the difference that healthy criticism makes in your life, you won't be able to exist without it. I'm telling you. Without it, you just feel like a person that's just gasping for air, like something is missing. It will literally become, I promise, believe it or not, like air in your lungs. It's encouraging, not discouraging. And I understand that this is not an easy transition. I understand that it's hard to open this up into our life, but it is worth it. I promise you. This mindset shift this year can help you unlock next level growth as a leader if you will open yourself up for it. So let's get practical here. We've talked about why we don't like criticism. We've talked about how we can surround ourselves with this whole crew and team of people, how we can create this culture, why we need it. But I want to offer you some principles of how we actually learn to love criticism. So let me offer you 3 key principles that I think you need in your life that will help you in this area. The first is to value growth. If you believe your abilities are fixed, that you're as good as you're going to get, and that you've already peaked in your growth, then you'll see criticism as a threat. You'll see someone trying to tell you something that's different than what you believe about yourself. But if you value growth and you have a growth mindset and you're always wanting to get better, you'll view feedback or criticism as an opportunity to improve. If you value growth, you'll welcome opportunities to learn, the challenges that come with it, and the hard work to exercise the knowledge that you get, and criticism that sharpens that experience. Remember, it's a mindset shift. Criticism isn't about who you are. Criticism is about who you can become. And when you welcome that, when you value that in your life, it changes everything. And then secondly, I would say you need to value failure. That's right, failure is important. We talk about that a lot on this podcast, the value of failing and what we can learn from it. Most of us dislike criticism because we hate failure. We spend all of our lives trying to avoid it. We don't want to fail and we don't want to be told that we failed. But here's the truth. Failure is a part of the process. If you're not failing, you're not trying hard enough. We have to embrace it and we have to learn from it. I talked about the value of failure on our last episode, actually. So if you missed it, I want you to go back and I want you to watch and listen to that because I believe it'll be helpful. But one thing that's worth repeating from that is that if someone makes a mistake and can learn and grow from it, then the mistake was worth it. That's what I think about failure. If someone can make a mistake and then learn and grow from it, then it was worth the mistake because over time, everyone gets better from the failures that we have learned from. So I want to encourage you here. Don't let the fear or the shame of failure be a barrier for inviting criticism into your life. When we value growth and failure, we have a greater opportunity of getting better. And then the third thing I would say here is you need to value humility. This is a leadership value, a personal and professional growth tool that we all need to lean into a little more. Value humility. The Bible says that pride comes before the fall, and I believe that is so true. But the opposite of pride is humility, and humility, I think, is the secret ingredient to accepting criticism. See, when you're humble, you stop trying to be right all the time. You become teachable. And that's where the magic begins to happen. As the saying goes, it's okay to admit that you do not know. I think it would be freeing for everyone just to repeat that. I don't know. See, it's freeing. You give opportunity to say, I've still got something to learn here. See, I believe that a posture of humility is one of the most important tools that you can have. Humility allows you to just let your guard down and learn. So be humble and watch yourself grow. So congratulations, you have now opened the door for criticism in your life. I'm proud of you. But what do you do with it, okay? So if this is the values that I have to have in my life in order to respond to criticism, what do we do with it? And I think that's a great question. So let me give you a simple 3-step process. And most of this you're going to want to go back, listen or watch again so you can digest it all. But let me give you 3 things, little steps here of what you can do to actually activate or use the criticism in your life. The first thing I would tell you is rate yourself. Rate yourself on the criticism that you have received. So let me explain. When someone gives you feedback, they are evaluating you. That's what criticism is. That's what feedback is. But how you respond determines if you're teachable. So your response to that criticism determines if it's going to be positive or negative for you, and it's up to you. After receiving criticism, just take a moment, reflect on it, and then ask yourself this question. Did I stay open or did I get defensive? Did I actually listen? And if you find yourself leaning into and growing from the critique, you've accomplished its purpose. But if you're resistant and you can only see how they are wrong in their assessment and that you're right and all the reasons why they missed it, well, you may need to try again. So just critique it. Go back and evaluate. How did I take the criticism? And then the second thing I would say is ask for feedback. This is where your challenge crew comes in. Remember the people that you surround yourself with? Go to people that you trust and ask for feedback. Share the criticism you received with someone you trust. Get their perspective. See, having someone else involved who will be honest with you, remember this challenge crew, it keeps you accountable. They know you, they know your strengths, and they know your weaknesses. And we all have that proverbial blind spot. You know, that area of your life that isn't clear to us, but it's clear to everyone else. That high dive, that twisting and turning in midair, and the other people are looking in, seeing what you can't see. See, if you ask them to help you see it, then that gives you insight on the things that you couldn't see on your own. So ask for it. And then the third part of this is listen, thank them, and then apply it. Listen to what they say. Thank them for taking the time to invest in you, and then apply what they've said. Don't waste it. See, when someone takes the time to critique you, you need to be willing to listen. Even if you don't like it or if you don't agree with what they're saying, either way, you can still learn. Even if you think they're coming from a negative direction, if they're not coming from something that's positive, you can still learn. I was always told we were given 2 ears and 1 mouth for a reason. So when it comes to criticism, be willing to listen more than you talk. So if they're positive, then thank them for bringing it to you. If they're negative and you don't even think it's coming from a good place, well, still take it, let it sharpen you a little bit, because you can still learn something regardless of their intent. And then don't forget, thank them for it. Thank them for the critique. It's not always easy for someone to offer criticism. Think about it. You know something that someone doesn't know. You need to tell them, hey, you've got food stuck in your teeth. It's awkward, isn't it? It can be an awkward thing. Sometimes it's just intimidating to give it as much as it is to take it. So if someone has taken the time to step beyond that intimidation factor of their own, thank them, because they're willing to invest in your life to make you better. Then take action. The best way to show that you're willing to improve is to actually improve. It's amazing to me how many people are offered ways to improve, yet they continue to do the same thing over and over and over. If you want to get better, you have to be better. Do you get that? Come on, me too. If I want to be better, I've got to be better. I've got to put some work into it. I really do hope this is helping you. I know this is tough, but I hope this is growing you. We've discussed why we don't like criticism. We've discussed how to receive it, how to apply it. Now, I want to flip the script for just a second. What if you're the one giving criticism? I don't want to leave you out of this conversation either. If you're a leader and you're already doing this, maybe you've got this covered. But even if you're not a leader, I think you can still serve in someone's challenge crew, because we all need those people around us. So if you're leading, you got this down, great. Maybe some of these things will help you. If you're leading and you go, something's not right, I think I'm doing more harm than good, I think this is going to help you. And for all of us, as we help one another, let's get better together. So let me show you how to give criticism effectively. Number 1, state your intentions. Start by saying, I want to help. It's much easier to accept criticism when it comes from a place of care and support. So just simply let them know what your intent is, that your intent is to help. Your intent is for them to grow. Your intent is to sharpen their skills so that they can get better at doing what they do. So just state your intentions. Let them know, hey, I'm here not to hurt you, but I'm here to help you. The second thing, and I think this is important, is you need to avoid saying this phrase, don't take it personally. How many times have we offered critique and we have said that statement? Well, don't take it personally. Let's be real. We all take criticism personally because we care about what we do. When you say don't take it personally, you're basically minimizing their feelings and the pride of who they are and what it is that they do. Of course, we're going to take it personally. We care. Our emotions, our pride, our hard work is wrapped up in whatever it is that you're about to critique. If it's going to be a tough conversation, remember to state your intention and acknowledge that the criticism may be difficult to hear. Hey, I want to give you some feedback, and I know this is going to be difficult. None of us like to be critiqued, but I think this is going to help you. So it's going to be a tough conversation. Is it okay? because I see an area that you could really grow and excel. Is it good for you if I share this information, if I give you this critique? Just ask for their permission. State what it is that you want to say. Let them know up front, and then just avoid saying things like, hey, don't take it personal. And then the third thing I would say is offer suggestions. Don't just bring the problem without solutions. I hate when people point out problems and have zero solutions. Remember this statement: criticism without solutions is just complaining. Criticism without any solution is just complaining. If you're going to critique someone, offer practical steps that they can take to improve. The last thing you want to do is reveal a weakness in someone without empowering or equipping them with a solution. So offer several next steps that can be taken for their growth. Offer them a book, offer time with a mentor, a video series, a podcast. Any other resource that could be helpful for their critique. And remember, our criticism is to build them up and not tear them down. And the number 4, the last thing I would say here, is just provide ongoing support. Don't just critique them and then walk away. Be there to help them. Help them implement whatever changes that they have to implement. Offer feedback along the way. Just the best way to prove that you care is to actually care. If you have told them that you want to help them, you want to see them grow, you want to see them get better, don't be the boss or the manager that comes by and just says everything that is wrong without offering any help, any construction, or ongoing support. Just be there for the journey to literally care for those people. So here's the bottom line. Criticism isn't something to fear. Criticism is actually a gift. Listen to that. Criticism is not something to fear. It's actually opposite from what you think. It's a gift. When we embrace it, we grow faster and we go farther. We become better leaders, we become better teammates, and ultimately we become better people. So here's my challenge for you. This week, start finding people that could help you grow and build your challenge crew. Get these people around you. Ask them to help you grow by offering helpful criticism, the things that they see that maybe you don't. And then think about someone who has given you constructive feedback. Think about someone who has helped you by challenging you a little bit. I would encourage you to reach out to those people and say thank you. Say, thank you for investing in me. I'm working on it. And then take one tangible next step to improve whatever it was that they provided that feedback in. And if you're in a leadership position, ask yourself, am I creating a challenge culture? Am I encouraging honest and open feedback? Because if you do, you'll not only improve individuals, but you'll improve your entire team and you'll improve your company culture. When you can create an environment when everyone is on the same page, supporting, encouraging, and critiquing one another, and they begin to grow, it will change everything about your organization. I hope today's conversation has helped you grow and get better. I know it's been difficult, but I believe that your best days are ahead in 2025, and this is going to unlock so much potential for you. I want to say thank you for tuning in to the Mind Your Business podcast. And if you found today's episode helpful, share it with a friend or a coworker, someone who could benefit from this. And don't forget to like, subscribe, share, and leave a review. And until next time, let's keep learning, let's keep growing and leading with purpose.